And Carla made it in. Okay, Carla, first of all, I do just need to ask, how old are you? Hey, Carla, can you hear me?
Am I here?
You are here. It's a little noisy in your room. Can you go somewhere quiet?
Yay! Thank you so much. Who was it that helped me?
Mama Avery.
Mama Avery.
She's one of my moderators. Thank you very much, Mama Avery.
Really? Any reason to believe that he's
How old are you, Carla?
Okay, can y'all hear me?
You sound old enough. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me well?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So
I don't want no hate thrown on me.
I was actually gonna start by saying thank you so much for like politely working to get up here in whatever way you could. Like you went the extra mile on that. So you've started by putting me in a good mood. You say you're a Trump supporter. You say you're not hateful. I would say that if you are in full awareness of how the government in this country is supposed to work, if you're in full awareness of what it says in the Constitution and what our laws are, and you are fully aware of the sorts of things that Trump has been saying and doing lately, then those two things are incompatible. I think that if you are educated on those things, you could only support Trump if you were hateful, unfortunately. So that's what I want to explore
I've
with
got
you.
to disagree with that, because I can disagree and with his policies. Mm-hmm. I don't support all of his policies, but that I don't see how, because I agree with this, makes me hateful.
Well,
I disagree with people that are not U.S. citizens profiting from U.S. taxpayers.
who's doing that?
Somalia, Minnesota, California,
so you're talking
Maine.
Okay, yeah. So you're talking about like sanctuary cities and stuff, like people who are nicer to immigrants. But I would argue, like, so again, this comes to the full awareness of the facts thing, because as a matter of fact, the money that is spent on social programs that immigrants benefit from have a hugely positive effect on our economy and our crime rates and things like that. So the average taxpayer actually does better in terms of their tax burden and their quality of life because of that money spent.
Okay, but then why was a Somalia citizen arrested at an airport with, I think it was $300,000? I could be wrong on the numbers, because I had traumatic brain injury from the military, so I don't remember things all the time.
That's okay. Thank you for your
But they were traveling with a butt ton of cash. Ooh, can I say that?
You can
to
say,
Somalia. So how is that
things you
helping
can't say, but you can say
our
butt ton of
economy?
cash. Well, I'm not familiar with. I'm not familiar with. We're allowed to curse and stuff, but there's certain things that we have to be very careful about because of TikTok TOS. We're not allowed to discuss substances, for example. Anyway,
I'll be very careful of that.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with the case that you're talking about, but what I will say is, if you are right, if there was, I don't really know what crime you're accusing that person of committing. Are they smuggling cash home? Like what's?
I'm not accusing them of crime. You said that they were better for the economy, but how is it profitable for the economy if they're taking the money out of the country and sending it somewhere else?
Well, because you can point.
How does that benefit our economy?
So you can point to something like people sending money back home, which is, a cash drain on the United States, and that in a nutshell by itself with no other information is a thing that is a little bit draining to the American economy. But what you're missing is that if you look at the totality of the circumstances, if you look at all the information we have about the effect that these people have on the American economy, what you find is that people who work really, really hard relative to how much they are paid are disproportionately good for the economy. So elsewhere in the economy, maybe I get a better job because the company that I'm working at is able to pay me more, because all the other employees at that company, who maybe, if it's a company that does some agriculture stuff, maybe has a bunch of immigrants working in a field somewhere who are doing wildly productive work for less pay than somebody else might. So when you have such a disproportionately positive effect on the economy in a way that benefits the quality of life of other Americans in lots of different ways, and the taxes collected by those companies, like I just mentioned, the jobs made that those companies give to other people, that is a greater benefit than it is a cost for those people to, for example, send some money home. So if you look at everything, what you see is that they are highly productive members of society. All the things the American government wants Americans to do to make sure that America continues to thrive are the things that immigrants generally, as fact would have it, do.
I appreciate you inviting me up, Oscar. I really and truly do. Mm-hmm. But the attack comments, I'm 65. None of this affects my household right now.
Well,
I mean,
I think it's
in
really
general
important.
it does, yes.
Wait. So you're deflecting away from what I'm talking about. Sorry, my dog's barking. Noodle, come here. Sorry about that.
Yeah, my dog does that
I got
too.
an alert dog.
No, I'm not trying to deflect. I'm trying to step down because I'm accused of being hateful, and yet I'm watching the comments.
I would say that when you answer to
they're
everything,
the hateful ones.
when you answer to everything that I just said by saying that it doesn't affect you and your household, I would argue that is a hateful position.
Why is it hateful?
Because you don't.
Maybe I don't understand the word hateful. I might
personally
be mistaking the meaning.
That it is a hateful position to not value the suffering of people who are not in your household. So the fact that when presented with evidence that you were wrong about the thing you called in and talked about, which is people sending money home, immigrants sending money home after earning it here.
I'm not talking.
I gave
Go ahead.
I gave a good rebuttal to that, and instead of responding to my rebuttal and letting me know if you understood it or if you agreed with it, you just immediately turned and said that you don't care if it doesn't affect your household. And I would argue that hand waving away a problem, like the fact that the president is going after illegal immigrants without due cause to do so, hand waving that problem away because it doesn't affect you personally is a hateful thing to do. It's certainly selfish. And what he's doing is hateful.
Selfish, I agree with.
You're okay with him doing something hateful because you're selfish.
I'm okay with him deporting illegal aliens. And when people come up and say nobody's illegal, no, they're not an illegal person. They're an illegal resident. When you've got people that
but your argument about like the way that it affects legal Americans is just it happens to be a false one. It's that if we were only concerned with how this would affect your household, we shouldn't deport all the illegal immigrants, because if we successfully deport all the illegal immigrants during Trump's current administration, that would be very bad for your household. Your groceries in particular would get very, very expensive. Something like 54% of like in the field laborers for the agricultural industry, the people who grow your food, are illegal immigrants, and there would be a massive labor drain if we deported all of those people, and companies would scramble to fill the labor, which in an isolated sense would be good for some people getting jobs, but it would be bad for everybody because of the grocery prices that would be increased by that. For example, there's a bunch of ways in which it would be bad on a wide scale like that.
I'm sorry, I got distracted. Bright shiny object. It's
okay. Just try. I know the chat is distracted. Just try to focus on me.
Okay, that'll be much easier. Okay, I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to say this. What did they call them? Seasonal farm laborers. What did they used to call them?
Seasonal labor, yeah. What about them?
Okay. They're not. I'm not classifying them as all illegal aliens.
Right, I understand. Right, but I'm saying that as it would happen in the agricultural industry, they literally are illegal immigrants. It's more than half of them. Just slightly more than half of those laborers are illegal immigrants. So, for example, if Trump managed to deport all of the illegal immigrants tomorrow in one day, which is, this is physically impossible for him to do it that quickly. If he did, though, which a lot of Republicans would celebrate when the news came out, there would be an emergency. There could be a food shortage in this country if that were to happen. It would be massively disruptive to the agricultural industry. For example, again, there are other angles on this, but just to pick on something, that'd be really bad. So, and because the the immigration system in this country has been unfair to people for so long, especially in consideration.
The immigration definitely needs to be redone.
Overhaul. Yeah. I think the left and right both agree.
A major overhaul on that.
I think that's a bipartisan claim. I think that the left and the right agree on massive overhaul. But what I'm saying is that if we recognized that things have been bad in this country with immigration for a long time, and the current way of handling it hasn't been very good, and the legal process that these people are supposed to be using hasn't been easy to use, and sometimes takes years and years and years to even get a response, which is just too long for it to be like a practical option that incentivizes people to illegally immigrate if the process this isn't working. Instead of deporting all of them, instead of creating all that upset in the agricultural industry and a bunch of other industries and all these problems and all that fuel that we would need to burn flying those people home, every step of the way is expensive. All of that, instead of doing that, we could just change the rules and say, hey, it's been really bad for hundreds of years. Here's your packet of paperwork. Please get started on your legal residency. You're now in a probationary period where if you don't commit any violent crimes, all those ICE agents, all this infrastructure around catching these bad people, instead of just going after the hardworking ones that are benefiting our economy, we could actually focus on going after the bad ones. Because I want to catch the unalivers. I want to catch the predators. I want to catch the fraudsters. All the bad things that an illegal immigrant has ever done. I want to take that crime and say, you know what we should do is we should go for people who commit this crime, regardless of where they're from. We should catch murderers because they murder people, not because their paperwork isn't in order with their immigration status.
Agreed 100%, but when I see what the news is portraying on Minneapolis, where because I'm trying to think.
I do just want to mention.
I don't watch the news.
I do just want to mention for context for you. I live in Minneapolis. I live a few blocks away from where Alex Preddy was unalived, and I'm very involved in the protest scene here. And I will just say, as a Minneapolis, I love my immigrant neighbors. I love living in this melting pot. I'm from New York. I grew up in New York, and I love living in a city that has a similar degree of, I mean, it doesn't compare to New York, but a similar degree of like multicultural influence. I love the food. I love the people. I love how hardworking everybody is. I love how good the Human Development Index is. There's this metric that is used internationally to assess how good quality of life is in places, and Minnesota ranks 3rd among 50 states plus the territories. So what you hear on the news might not be accurate about what life is like here.
But to me, that would be awesome. The chance to words are hard sometimes.
The chance
the chance to experience new cultures and new foods. Mm-hmm. I love it. If I go anywhere and they've got a restaurant a food that I've never tried, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm closed-minded in spite of what I've seen. But what about the immigrants that come in without proper documentation? I'll put it that way.
Yep. You can say it. You can talk. We're allowed to talk about immigration.
But have committed crimes in their country.
So there are a number of what I call big lies that Trump tells. And when I talk about a big lie, there are certain things he says that, if they were true, would be wildly scandalous and very good reason for you to call in and tell me that I should be more concerned about illegal immigrants. And one of those claims is the idea that these other countries are emptying their prisons and mental asylums into our country through illegal immigration. That claim, I regret to inform you, is completely made up. There is no evidence of it.
I've never heard that. So,
well, you just said that they're talking about people who've been charged with crimes in other countries. Are you just talking about?
No, I'm saying that. But I didn't say anything about released from prison from their home countries and sent here. I didn't make that assumption. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Perfectly honest.
So what I'm saying is like let's have a hypothetical where, say, somebody did something bad, touched a kid on the local girls soccer team or something like that, right? Like some bad crime, and they have that on their record, and then they immigrate here. I am perfectly happy to like come to the middle ground of saying like, yeah, you know what? That's probably a person I would deny their application. Oh, you're a sex offender and you're trying to move countries? How about no? How about you can deal with that wherever you are? But the system that is supposed to protect us from allowing such people into the country is overwhelmed by not allowing all of these hardworking people. Most of these 12 or so million illegal immigrants that we have in this country, people who don't have legal status for some reason or another, most of them are hardworking people who pay taxes, either through a tax ID number or through the corporate taxes that the company they work for pays. Like, they benefit the tax system without able to get health care or Social Security or anything like that out of it. So what I'm saying is that, like, why would we spread our law enforcement thin? Why would we spread the immigration system thin, trying to get all these people when most of them benefit us, and we could just ignore those people, let them live their lives, and then really go after the type of people you're talking about who have records that we should be concerned about? Why aren't the
My
Republicans
understanding is that's who ICE was going after.
during the
But
Obama
again, that's
administration
my
in particular?
understanding.
ICE was very fastidiously working on exactly that. And when people say that Obama deported a lot of people, it was the result of that sort of approach, which is why Democrats don't have a problem with it and why you don't see massive civil rights violations coming out, which is a whole other thing we haven't discussed in this call. But ICE is violating.
Yeah, and that was my concern questions. Where was all of this mass hysteria when this has been done for the last 20 years?
Well,
ICE was created
just
almost
suggesting-
23 years ago.
Yeah, right after 9/11. And what I was just, as part of the expansion of DHS after 9/11. So what I was just describing is generally how we have approached immigration without doing this like massive overhaul of like allowing all these people, this mass amnesty thing that people refer to, where we should just take like 10 of these 12 million people and be like, here's some paperwork to get your shit in order. Like without that extra dramatic step of overhaul, what we just described about a better way to doing it is exactly how it's been going on, which is why you're only hearing about it now, because Trump is doing it in a bunch of ways that are super illegal and super bad for the country. And people like me are just saying that there are better ways to go about it.
I can't necessarily agree that what he's doing is illegal. It may be that it was never.
Seeking to enforce immigration law is not the illegal part. The fact is that about 10 million people in this country have just cause to be deported. And he's talking about enforcing that finally, when, of course, the reason that past presidents haven't gone with that approach of just massively like pouring money and resources into catching every single one of them is just because it's like, yeah, they're breaking the law, but like jaywalking is breaking the law. Should we go like shoot everyone who's jaywalking, arrest everybody who jaywalks? Like, would that have the benefit of stopping so many pedestrians from being hit by cars? Probably, but it would be really disruptive and bad for life in America. It would be like, imagine the police state we'd have to live in to completely prevent jaywalking. And that's kind of what's going on with ICE. It's that if you want to catch them all, you like the amount of police, the amount of ICE, the amount of overreach you need from the government to accomplish that goal is so bad for life in America, so bad for people's civil liberties, as we've seen with some noteworthy incidents that have happened, particularly in my neck of the woods in Minneapolis, but across the country wherever ICE are deployed. You see that what I'm arguing is that all those civil rights violations, all those bad things that happen, all that police overreach just isn't worth it, because immigration just isn't that big a deal. Most of those people should just be able to stay here. Somebody in the chat pointed out, well, what about the people who did it legally? Isn't that unfair to them? And I say, I have to be very careful about how I talk about this because of TikTok terms of service, but like the thing that a lot of people do recreationally where they light a substance on fire and inhale it and it makes them feel funny.
God, I wish I could.
That we can't talk further about it, but that thing, right? We are currently going through a mass amnesty for that. We're releasing people from prison who got in trouble for violating their parole by doing that, because we recognize now that was unjust. Is that just like a middle finger to everybody who like obeyed the law and never did that? No, it's just society progressing. Like, yeah, people were made victims by bad laws in the past. That doesn't mean we shouldn't make it better for the future.
You've given me so much to research, and I appreciate that. I could not vote for Kamala Harris because I disagree with how she got on the ballot. She could not articulate a platform on the things that I saw with her. So no, I can't vote for someone like that. So to sit there and say,
I think that what Trump is doing, I would extend everything I just said previously, because you kind of ignored it and moved on to Kamala, who is no longer like.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm not jumping down your throat for it. I just want to point out that it's interesting that that's what you do, because I actually think that whatever, because Trump is allowing for people's civil liberties, their constitutional rights to be violated by ICE in some ways that are pretty noteworthy for, that I have lots of evidence for, that I sit on here and give people examples for. Also, personally, I feel like we're having a good faith conversation and you believe what I'm like, that I'm being genuine. So I will just tell you that
you have given me a whole lot to look into, because I was uninformed.
I just wanted to add to my little tirade I was on there that I personally have had my civil liberties violated by ICE. I've been assaulted by ICE officers. I've been threatened by ICE officers for exercising my First Amendment right. I've gotten involved and I've seen it with my own eyes, and I've filmed it and put some of that on the internet. What I'm saying is is that isn't just a good reason to vote for Kamala over Donald Trump. It's a good reason to impeach him and remove him from office because he's not obeying the Constitution, which is fundamentally what the president's job is, because no politician is above the Constitution. And that's, if I were to say all this immigration stuff, we talked a lot about immigration, we could talk about Iran, we could talk about his versus her policies, we could talk about all that stuff. But like, if it boils down to one thing, the president needs to obey the Constitution. And just last week, Trump signed another executive order threatening states that disobeyed with the executive order, removing their federal funding if they don't obey with his new election rules. But the Constitution is very specific about the president not establishing election rules, because that's how people become tyrants, is they control the elections that determine whether or not they have power. If Trump controls the midterm elections, the midterm elections won't be fair. Enough Republicans will stay in power that they won't be able to impeach him. That's what he's afraid of, because if we get more constitutionally minded leadership in Congress, Trump will immediately be impeached because he's done so many impeachable things. That's like the big point I want to leave you with, which is that there's a bunch of stuff that Trump is doing in broad daylight that's really, really bad. And media on the right, I don't know what news you watch, I can guess.
I try not to, because I don't want one. I don't want one side versus the other. I don't want.
You should watch everything then. I try to watch everything. I try to know.
I do 1440. I do. I get most of my news.
AM radio.
No, the internet. Well, they might have radio. I don't know. I pull it up on my email.
Okay. Yeah, I will just say that there is a trend among, if 1440 is an AM frequency and that's like what the station is, there actually is a really strong trend of media on AM frequencies in particular being right-leaning. In fact, I'll just say this to everybody else watching, grab a radio and tune to some AM channels. Whoa, there is some wild stuff on there. But it's almost entertaining how ridiculous some of it is. But yeah, if you're going to listen to something called 1440, I would also maybe listen to the news roundup from NPR, see what they're talking about. Let's see what Fox is talking about. See that there are organizations like Associated Press, for example, and Reuters and BBC that report very candidly. Here's what Trump did. Here's video of him saying it. Here's the law that it maybe violates, without so much of the sensationalization on it.
Yeah, I enjoy watching I enjoy watching the take on America from other countries' news stations.
Yeah, that's why I recommend
because
BBC.
I'm not going to get. Yeah,
BBC's
and
biggest the BBC's
everyone
biggest stake in American politics is whether or not they're going to be involved in a war that we start. So they tend to report pretty honestly on what we're up to because they're concerned about it. Because the world is very concerned about what Trump is doing. America's very powerful. And I'll put it this way. The rest of the world recognizes that it's a problem, that we have like a rule in this country where you're not allowed to have a firearm if you're a felon. Donald Trump is a 34-time convicted felon. And he has the nuclear.
No,
yes,
that is incorrect.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
No,
he was.
He was 30. He was found.
Wait, I'm sorry. You need to be very careful because
those were civil.
Please
Civil court is not a felon.
No. You're mixing it up with the E. Jean Carroll thing, and you need to be careful about getting a misinformation flag and getting banned by TikTok because he absolutely was convicted of 34 felonies for falsifying business documents. It has nothing to do with the civil case that people are always arguing about. Because yes, that one was the E. Jean Carroll thing, the sexual assault. That was civil. Not criminal, still bad, but it was civil. But no, he's a felon. He was tried and convicted of 34 felonies recently, a couple years ago.
Now, I thought those were all civil
they were felony state charges in New York. He is a convicted felon. He's not allowed to own a firearm or vote in New York, I don't think. It varies state to state, he's allowed to vote because he's a Florida voter, and Florida has a rule where if your felonies are from a different state, then they don't take away your voting rights. But anyway, he has the nuclear launch.
That's interesting.
Yeah. There's all these different technicalities, and I'm not surprised that Florida's laws about it are maybe a little more forgiving of criminals than other states. But again, this is a person who's not allowed to own a firearm because he's a felon, but he has the United States military.
Oh, definitely. Okay.
That's bad.
Oscar, can you message me the constitutional the breaking the Constitution that you were talking about earlier, can you send me a text or anything like that?
So I'll tell you this. I don't know if it's on the live thing. I'm still kind of learning how to use this. But you're following me. If you want to message me and formulate exactly what your question is, I will put together a package of resources for you. I will send you some stuff to look at, and I will explain it in whatever way you need to understand it. Because I mean, it sounds to me like you are recognizing it's very concerning, some of the things that I'm saying. So I would love to help you in that.
I don't want people thinking that I would follow him to the ends of the earth. That's
some
not
people would,
happen.
and I will just say, a lot of the people who call in would follow him to the end of the earth. It doesn't matter what I tell them. All of this stuff that it seems to be raising the hairs on the back of your neck, you're a little concerned about. A lot of people hand wave it all away and want to say this or that about Biden or that about Kamala. And I spend a lot of time talking to those people, and it's frustrating. So I always try to be careful to not assume everybody's going to be that way. And I genuinely believe that you're talking to me in good faith and that you want to learn more about how all this works. And I'm totally happy to help out with that. And if you want to look at some of that stuff and call in another time, this can be an ongoing thing. You've been
I would enjoy that as long as I don't look at the comments calling me an idiot.
Yeah, I will say, I'm going to say this because I can kind of feel our call, and probably my stream for the day is coming to an end here. But I do have this thing I talk a lot about, which is that I think that Trump supporters generally fall into two categories, and I call them evil and the evil ones and the fools. And I don't want those words to be taken as insults, because I'm just talking about how if being ignorant of something isn't necessarily bad. It just means you're not, you don't know. Just that's all.
I'm not informed.
Right.
I will completely agree that I am
there are Trump supporters
misinformed and uninformed.
There are Trump supporters who are very, very informed on all this stuff, and they don't care, and they're okay with what's happening. And those people I'm pretty mean to. Those people I'm pretty direct with. Those people I'm pretty cutthroat on here. And the comments are too. And a lot of people expect that from everybody who calls in. I don't feel that's you, and I'm not going to punish you for being misinformed. I think that what the people who have misinformed you, maybe the people who run that radio station or the Fox News host or Trump himself, I think those people are very, very evil. And it breaks my heart that well-intending sounding people like yourself have been convinced of some of these big lies, because it doesn't sound to me like you have a bad heart. It doesn't sound to me, you know what? You said at the beginning when I invited you to call in that you weren't hateful, and I said that was in conflict with you being a Trump supporter. I don't think you are hateful. You don't seem hateful to me at all. But I think
try not to be.
I think that means that the more educated you become about Trump's presidency, the less you'll support it.
Okay, and I can agree with that. I can agree with that 100%. When President Obama ran on his first ticket, I have always been a conservative. I've always been Republican. But I took the time to go to his office in Fort Worth. For y'all that don't know, I'm in Texas. Fort Worth, I'm not there anymore. But I went to his office in Fort Worth and got a copy of his platform as well as the Democratic platform. And I've read them over the years. There's more things in their platforms, which we know how long ago this was, so don't count on me remembering. I'm old. Mm-hmm. I got that olditis thing. But there were more things in the platform that I did not agree with and could not support.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the problems with campaigning is that both sides are going to attack the other side, and the issue is that we're in a situation right now where the people on the left are making some pretty wild accusations about people on the right, and the people on the right are making pretty wild accusations about people on the left. And you might think that makes the two sides look the same. But here's the problem, is that if you know how to read the news, if you have good media literacy, and you know how to find out what's true, you know who to listen to about which things to make sure that you get well informed, what you'll see is that the reason there's all this left and right finger pointing. The reason the people on the left are saying all these terrible things about people on the right generally is because they did those things. The reason that the people on the right are saying it about the people on the left is because they're liars. And one of the big things that we see about the partisanship in this country right now is that people on the left, politicians on the left in particular, elected officials, generally don't say things into the microphone that they know are definitely false, whereas Republicans are caught doing that red-handed every single day. Trump will say a different thing on Monday than he did on Tuesday, depending on what the question was. That's lying or incompetence, and either are really bad. Sometimes it's incompetence, definitely. But we see it also from the more competent members of his administration who aren't as like old and crazy as he is. You know, people like Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth, who have functioning brains, are in their political prime, who are people are willing to say things that are so obviously false. So from the outside, if you don't know what the truth is, it does look the same. It does look, oh, look at all these people, all this anger, you know, like, oh, you know, they say that, you know, he's a sexual predator, and then they, you know, he says that she's gonna, you know, send your kids to war, like whatever crazy not, like there's all this back and forth. But if you just get to work on assessing what is actually going on and what is actually true, you'll find that the accusations from the left are generally true, and the accusations from the right are nonsense. We live in a very nonsense-driven political sphere, and that's devastating. Because, like I said, it's somebody said it in the comments, and so I'll say what I said a second ago, and I'll add what they said as like an addendum to it, which is that it breaks my heart that people like yourself get misinformed to the degree that it seems you've been. But the follow-up to it that I'm going to take from the chat is, Trump. You say, you know, you're concerned with not being hateful. That, you know, it doesn't sound like you are hateful. You don't want to be hateful. Trump's really hateful, and I don't think you can say that about.
Oh, without a doubt.
Then why could you?
I hear the stupid shit that he says.
Yeah, that's bad. It's you gotta.
Lindsay, you want to know how old I am? I'm 65 years old. I spent 11 years in the military. Mine was all during, let's call it peacetime. It was during the Cold War, and we had all our little hidden wars going on at the time.
Wars, relative peacetime for a serviceman.
The media is going to call it peacetime, but we're not going to say that it was really peacetime.
Cold War. Yeah.
I was in Cold War. I was in from March of 79 until December of 89. I was in the Navy because I didn't want to get my nails dirty, and that's the joke that I tell on myself. I still can't say that I won't be a conservative the rest of his term, however long or short it is. But I at least consider myself willing to learn about a Democratic view.
Yeah.
And to see if it's something I can align myself with.
Yeah. So send me that message, and whatever, you know, I heard you were having a hard time formulating your questions. So just think about it and send it to me on your own time, and I'll help you out. Cause yeah,
I will. And Gus and Aaron, I don't know why you hate me. Or I'm going
to forgive my chat for being upset about what's going on. You know, I think, again, like, we've only really scratched the surface on some of these civil rights abuses that are happening. Like, there's some really terrible stuff that's happening.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I'm going to look into, because I haven't paid attention to it.
People say that a lot, but I actually believe you. I think you are going to look into it. So I'm going to help you out with that.
Oh hell yeah. As soon as I get off of here, I'm going to go to Google.
Yeah. So, and you know, if you hear something and you're not sure, you know, like if you see a different claim from Fox News than you do from CNN, you know, you message me. You can call in another time. We can talk about this stuff. I'm going to move on for today, but thank you so much for calling in. You worked so hard on getting up.
Thank you, Oscar. I appreciate it. I really do. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Carla. Okay, that was an interesting call. I haven't had a genuine, like, good faith somebody who's just like flatly misinformed call in a while, and it was making me sad. How? Cause the whole evil fools thing. I get a little tired of just talking to people who are evil. They make better Instagram clips. They you know, they're easier to trick into saying dumb things that are worth like promoting my social media account by like trial reeling a bunch of nonsense they said and publicizing the video that gets 100,000 views or 10,000 views or whatever's good performing for that day, whichever ones are getting a lot of followers. But like, that was a beautiful call. I'll probably post that one on YouTube, because it's like that sort of call where it's like, you know, grandma's been listening to the wrong news channel. You know, like I sometimes do, just in passing, listen to, like, there's like a religious channel, AM 1330, where I live in Minneapolis. That's pretty crazy. There's like a few of them that I have like a physical little like bathroom radio that I like sometimes listen to when I'm in the shower, when I'm doing my chores and stuff. The thing that I always impress upon myself is that for every little random channel that I find, or whether radio stations, news channels, a YouTuber, a TikTok commentator like myself, there's always somebody for whom that's their main source. And I think, what would your worldview be if all you listened to was AM 1330? And if all you listened to is AM 1330, you probably think there is a dumpster full of fetuses behind your least favorite politician's house. Like, it is absolutely bananas, the type of stuff that they'll talk about. And then they just won't talk about stuff that's really like bad, like a story like the fact that Trump bombed a school, killed 174 young girls with was it a Patriot missile, Predator missile? I don't know my military gear. We bombed a school recently. Those sorts of stories just won't even be talked about. They just won't even bring up the discourse because they don't need to, because they're gonna roll their mid-roll ads about how you need to donate to stop abortion and stuff like that, and they'll just glaze over all that stuff. So yeah, I mean the first step I think for somebody like Carla is to just definitely just watch more news. More is better. It's a tomahawk. That's right. I always mix up the tomahawk and the Predator.